There are moments in life when words fall short and no explanation can erase the pain someone is feeling. In those moments, your presence becomes the miracle. It's not about saying the perfect thing or fixing the problem. It's about showing up. When you stand beside someone in their storm, your very presence says, "You are not alone," that speaks louder than any sermon you could preach. Think about it. When the disciples were caught in a storm, Jesus didn't send a scroll or a word from afar. He showed up. He didn't fix everything right away. He simply stood with them in the chaos. Sometimes that's all it takes. Your willingness to be there, even when you don't have answers, can be the anchor someone needs to keep going. Don't underestimate the power of silence. Too often we think we have to speak to make a difference, but silence can hold more strength than 1,000 words. A hug, a shared tear, or just sitting together in the same space can remind someone that they are seen, they are heard, and they matter. Your presence can be the still, small voice that whispers hope to their soul. Stop trying to perfect the moment. Sometimes your imperfections are what make you relatable. People don't need a hero, they need someone who understands their humanity. When you're present without pretense, you give them permission to be honest about their struggles without fear of judgment. That kind of connection can be life-changing. Remember, you're not called to fix everyone's situation. That's not your role. Your role is to be a conduit of love, a reminder of the divine truth that even in the valley, no one walks alone. Just being there with someone in their darkest hour can shine a light they didn't know they had. Think about Job's friends. Before they started talking, they got it right. They sat with him in silence for days, simply sharing in his suffering. It wasn't their presence that caused harm. It was when they tried to explain what they didn't understand. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just sit down and stay a while. When you show up for someone, you're reflecting God's heart. You're saying, "I may not have the answers, but I have you." That's where healing begins, not in explanations or solutions, but in the undeniable comfort of being fully present. Never underestimate the power of showing up. When someone is broken, weary, and barely holding on, the last thing they need is judgment. They don't need someone pointing fingers at their failures. They need someone pointing them toward their future. When you speak life, you shift the atmosphere. You awaken hope where despair had taken root, and you remind them that their story doesn't end here. Your words can either build a bridge to their healing or dig a deeper pit for their pain. Choose to build. A person in pain is already wrestling with their own doubts and insecurities. Don't let your words confirm what their fears are shouting. Speak life. Speak to their potential, not their problems. Tell them you are stronger than this. You are more than what you've been through. There is a greater version of you on the other side of this battle. Let your words pour water on their dry places, not fuel on their fire. The power of life and death is in your tongue. Don't use your words as weapons to wound. Use them as tools to heal. When Jesus encountered the broken and the outcast, he didn't condemn them, he lifted them. He spoke to the greatness within them, even when they couldn't see it themselves. If the Savior of the world could extend grace, who are we to withhold it? Criticism is easy. It costs nothing to point out someone's flaws or highlight their mistakes, but encouragement, that takes intention. It requires you to look beyond the surface and see what's buried deep within. It calls you to see past the rubble of their circumstances and declare the beauty of what's still standing. That's what it means to speak life, to see beyond the brokenness and call forth the masterpiece. Understand this, your words carry weight. You have the ability to break chains or build walls. When someone is at their lowest, they are listening more closely than you realize. Let your voice be the one that reminds them of their strength, their resilience, and their worth. Let your words remind them that they are not defined by their failure, but by their ability to rise again. Judgment isolates, but encouragement unites. When you speak life into someone's situation, you're saying, "I see you. I believe in you. I'm with you." Those words can create a bond that helps them find their footing again. You may never know how much your encouragement meant to them, but one day they'll look back and remember that you were the voice that called them out of the darkness. So today, choose to be the voice of life. When you see someone struggling, don't add to their burden, lift it. Speak words that heal, words that inspire, words that restore. Remind them that they are not their mistakes and that God's plan for their life is still unfolding. Speak life and watch how it transforms not only them, but you as well. Grace is the unmerited favor of God, poured out without measure, without conditions, and without hesitation. If grace was given based on worthiness, none of us could stand. So when someone stumbles, falls, or finds themselves in a valley of their own making, your response should reflect the grace you've been given. Extend it generously because you never know when you might need it yourself. In their weakest moment, people don't need reminders of how far they've fallen. They need reminders of how deeply they're loved. Grace says, I see your flaws, but I choose to love you anyway. It's not about condoning mistakes. It's about lifting someone beyond them. Grace is a lifeline, not a lecture. It builds bridges where judgment builds walls. Think about the times you've needed grace. In your moments of failure, wasn't it grace that gave you the courage to try again? Extend that same grace to others. Don't hold them to a standard you wouldn't want to be held to in your weakest hour. We are all walking through life's battles, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do is remind someone that their mistakes don't define them. Extending grace doesn't mean excusing behavior. It means offering a path to restoration. It says you may have fallen, but you can rise again. I'm here to help you get back up. Grace is a powerful tool, not just for healing others, but for healing relationships. It takes courage to extend it, but its impact is eternal. When you give grace, you're reflecting the heart of God. The same grace that reached down to you when you were lost is the grace you're called to extend to others. And here's the beauty of grace. The more you give, the more it multiplies. It doesn't run out, it overflows. Let your grace be like a river, flowing freely and refreshing everyone it touches. People are more fragile than they seem. A harsh word or a condemning look can crush a spirit already on the edge. But grace has the power to restore what shame has broken. It covers wounds, mends hearts, and speaks life where death once reigned. When you extend grace, you're not just offering kindness, you're offering healing. In a world quick to judge and slow to forgive, be the exception. Be the person who chooses grace over grudges, understanding over anger, and restoration over rejection. When you give the kind of grace you'd want in your darkest hour, you become a vessel of hope, a carrier of love, and a reflection of the divine. Let grace flow through you and watch it transform lives, including your own. Life can feel heavy, and there are seasons when the weight of the world is too much for one person to carry alone. God didn't design us to shoulder our burdens in isolation. He created us for community, for connection, for walking hand in hand to hand through life's toughest valleys. When someone you love is struggling, don't stand back and watch them crumble. Step in, step up, and carry the weight with them. Being a burden lifter means more than just offering words of encouragement. It means showing up in practical ways. It means rolling up your sleeves, sharing their struggle, and saying, I may not have all the answers, but I'll stand with you until the storm passes. Your presence can remind them that they are not alone, and together you can find strength they didn't know was possible. Empathy is the bridge that connects hearts. When you walk alongside someone with empathy, you're not just acknowledging their pain, you're stepping into it. You're saying, I see you, I feel you, and I'll help you carry what feels unbearable. That kind of compassion has the power to heal wounds that words alone cannot touch. Don't be the kind of person who adds to someone's burden with judgment, criticism, or indifference. Life is already hard enough. Instead, be the one who lifts, who encourages, who carries. When you help someone stand under their weight, you're reflecting the heart of God, who invites us to cast all our cares on him because he cares for us. Sometimes carrying the weight together means just being present in the silence. You don't have to have all the solutions. You don't have to fix everything. Just your willingness to stay and shoulder the load speaks volumes. It reminds them that even in their darkest hour, they are not forgotten and they are not alone. Remember, when you carry someone's burden, you're not only helping them, you're growing yourself. You're building the kind of strength that only comes from love in action. You're learning what it means to give sacrificially, to serve selflessly, and to love deeply. In lifting others, you find that your own strength increases. There is power in partnership. Together, you can face mountains that seemed immovable and endure storms that felt unending. When we carry the weight together, we remind each other of the truth: we were never meant to do this alone. Be the one who lightens the load and watch how lives, including your own, are transformed. When someone is walking through a storm, there's only so much your words can do. You can try to encourage them, comfort them, and speak life into their situation, but there are battles that words cannot win. That's where prayer steps in. Prayer unlocks doors that human effort cannot budge. It shifts the atmosphere, aligns hearts with heaven, and calls on the power of God to do what only he can do. When you pray for someone, you're standing in the gap for them. You're saying, I may not have the answers, but I know the one who does. You're inviting the presence of God into their situation, speaking his promises over their life, and declaring that even in the middle of the storm, he is still in control. Don't just pray silently, pray out loud. Let them hear their name called before the throne of grace. Let them hear your faith, even when theirs feels weak. Prayer isn't just about changing their circumstances, it's about strengthening their faith. Sometimes God doesn't remove the storm, he strengthens his child to walk through it. Pray that their trust in him will grow, that their spirit will be renewed, and that they will come out of the fire stronger than they went in. Your prayers can be the anchor that keeps them steady when the waves are crashing around them. There's something powerful about praying with someone, not just for them. Holding their hand, standing in agreement, and lifting their situation up together creates a connection that words cannot replicate. In that sacred moment, heaven meets earth and the peace of God begins to settle in their heart. Your willingness to pray with them shows that you are not just a spectator in their battle, you're a partner in their victory. Don't wait for the perfect moment to pray. Don't wait until you feel equipped or have the right words. Just start. Prayer isn't about eloquence, it's about sincerity. It's about bringing your heart before God and asking him to move in ways that you cannot. Even the simplest prayer, spoken in faith, can move mountains. When you pray, you're not just interceding for them, you're reminding them of who God is. You're declaring that he is still Jehovah Jireh, their provider, Jehovah Rapha, their healer, and Jehovah Shalom, their peace. Your prayer becomes a testimony of his faithfulness and a reminder that his power is still at work. So don't hold back. Pray with boldness. Pray with expectation. Pray like their breakthrough depends on it, because it just might. Let them hear you call out to the God who never fails. And as you pray, watch how the atmosphere begins to shift, how hope begins to rise, and how the power of God begins to move. Pity may feel comforting in the moment, but it chains people to their struggles. When you pity someone, you only remind them of how broken, stuck, or helpless they feel. But when you offer solutions, you give them wings to rise above their circumstances. You become a voice of possibility, a reminder that the situation they're in is not their final destination. Solutions ignite hope, and hope is what fuels transformation. People don't need to be reminded of their pain, they're already living in it. What they need is someone to help them see beyond it. They need someone who will say, I see where you are, but I also see where you can go. Be that voice. Be the one who doesn't just sit in the ashes, but helps them rebuild. Show them the path forward when all they can see are dead ends. Offering solutions doesn't mean you have to fix everything for them. It means empowering them to take steps toward their own breakthrough. Sometimes it's as simple as helping them identify the first step, showing them resources, or connecting them with someone who can help. When you focus on solutions, you shift their mindset from I can't to I can. That shift is where change begins. Compassion and action must go hand in hand. Feeling sorry for someone is not enough. True compassion moves you to act. It pushes you to think, what can I do to help them move forward? How can I be part of their comeback story? Your role isn't just to empathize, but to empower. Your voice should lift, not linger in their despair. Sometimes the best solution you can offer is perspective. People often get stuck because they can't see beyond their immediate pain. Speak to their future. Remind them of their strength, their resilience, and their potential. Help them to see that the storm they're in is temporary and that brighter days are ahead. Your words can be the compass that points them back to hope. Be careful, though, not to overwhelm them with too much at once. Solutions should be practical and achievable. Start small. Give them something they can act on today, not a mountain they have to climb tomorrow. As they take one step, then another, their confidence will grow, and soon they'll be running toward the life they thought was out of reach. When you offer solutions, you're not just helping them solve a problem, you're showing them that they have value, that their life matters, and that their story isn't over. You're partnering with them in their journey toward wholeness. And in doing so, you're not just changing their life, you're sowing seeds of hope that will ripple far beyond what you can see. When someone is drowning in pain, it's easy for them to forget who they are and whose they are. The weight of their struggles can make them lose sight of their identity and the unshakable truth of God's promises. That's where you come in, not just as a friend, but as a messenger of hope. Speak life over them and remind them that God's word never returns void. His promises are a lifeline, steady and unchanging, even in the fiercest storm. Tell them This is not the end of your story. Midnight may feel endless, but morning always comes. The same God who brought light into the darkness in the beginning is the same God who will bring light into their life. Remind them that their pain is temporary, but his faithfulness is eternal. They may not see it now, but God is still working behind the scenes, turning their sorrow into joy and their ashes into beauty. Sometimes people need to hear the promises of God spoken over them because they've forgotten how to claim them for themselves. Speak his word with authority. He will never leave you nor forsake you. His plans for you are good, to prosper you and give you hope and a future. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Each promise is a seed that will take root in their heart, growing into hope when they need it most. To remind them of who God is: Jehovah Jireh, their provider; Jehovah Shalom, their peace; Jehovah Rapha, their healer. He hasn't forgotten them, abandoned them, or changed his mind about them. The same God who parted the Red Sea and closed the mouths of lions is the God who holds their life in his hands. He is faithful and he cannot fail. Help them remember that their identity is not tied to their circumstances, but to their Creator. They are a child of the King, fearfully and wonderfully made, chosen and loved. Their pain doesn't diminish their worth. It's a reminder of their need for his strength. In their weakness, his power is made perfect. Remind them of who they are in him and watch how their spirit begins to rise. Pain has a way of making the present feel permanent, but your voice can break through that lie. Remind them that God's promises are not just for yesterday or tomorrow. They are for today. They are fresh every morning, and his mercies never run out. The same God who delivered before will deliver again. Let your words help them see beyond the valley, toward the mountaintop that awaits them. You don't have to fix their pain or have all the answers. Just remind them of God's truth. Speak his promises into their life and let his word do the rest. In their midnight hour, your voice can be the light that guides them to the dawn, the anchor that keeps them steady, and the reminder that they are never alone. God is faithful, and his promises will never fail. Thanks for watching.